Success isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little better than the day before. It all adds up. A warm and hearty welcome to everybody on this pleasant evening to the 8th edition of E-SUMMIT, the annual entrepreneurial conclave of IIT Bhubaneswar. I'm Prishanti, a core-head of E-SUMMIT, and it is my immense pleasure to host this evening. I cordially invite our Honorable Director, Sir, Professor R.V. Raja Kumar, onto the dais. The esteemed chief guest of today's inaugural evening, Shri Sandip Ranjan Das. I invite Dean Student Affairs, Professor Parlapalli Venkata Satyam sir, PIC ESL Dr. Gaurav Bhattaria, Chairperson of E-SUMMIT, Dr. Madhushmita Das, Vice Chairperson of E-SUMMIT, Dr. Raja Kumar Guduru, and the Chief Coordinator of E-SUMMIT, Shivsai Abhinav Chekka, onto the dais. And a warm welcome to all the participants present this evening. Thank you. Let us now proceed with the occasion of an auspicious lamp lighting ceremony. I now request all the dignitaries present on the dais to join. Thank you all the dignitaries for enlightening the ignited minds. E-SUMMIT, the Entrepreneurship Summit, is a 3-day event to promote and enhance the entrepreneurial thoughts of students. We, E-SUMMIT, aim to openly embrace innovation and inventive design to bring people together and grow. E-SUMMIT facilitates interaction among industrialists, funding agencies, upcoming entrepreneurs, academia, and students. Owing to the pandemic situation, we are having our 8th edition of E-SUMMIT in hybrid mode. The offline event is being broadcasted to many viewers online. We are also going to organize guest talks and many other events and competitions in a virtual mode. We are going to have a blissful 3 days ahead. We are sure that you take back a lot of memories with you. Now, a hearty welcome to our chairperson of E-SUMMIT, Dr. Madhushmita Das, to present the welcome address.
Thank you, Prasanti, for briefly describing what this flagship annual entrepreneurship event of IIT Bhubaneswar stands for. Honorable President of the inaugural ceremony, Professor R.V. Rajkumar Sir, Director IIT Bhubaneswar, esteemed Chief Guest of the event, Shri Sandip Ranjan Das Ji, Board Director of Sterlite Technologies and Greenlam Industries, and ex-CEO of Jio. It's such an honor to host you at IIT Bhubaneswar, Sir. Respected Professor P.V. Satyam, Dean of Student Affairs, Sri Devraj Rath, Registrar IIT Bhubaneswar, President Student Gymkhana, Dr. Srinivas Karanki, PIC E-Cell, Dr. Gaurav Bhartaria, my colleague, Dr. Rajakumar Guduru, Vice Chairman E-SUMMIT, Chief Coordinator of E-SUMMIT, Sai Abhinav, and all the dignitaries, students, budding entrepreneurs, faculty colleagues, staff members, friends from media fraternity, and the entire team of E-SUMMIT 2022. A very warm good evening to all of you. I am reminded by a famous quote, what says, what you are looking for is also looking for you. Motivated by this, the theme of this year E-SUMMIT is embracing innovation, reshaping the future. Putting the essence in short, it is all about adapting the new ways of life which keeps on changing day after day, even faster than the day before. E-SUMMIT is a culture of IIT Bhubaneswar. It brings together academic community, venture capitalists, new age entrepreneurs, and all those who are fascinated and passionate about entrepreneurship to a common platform. Along with the existing events like IPL auction, Invest Up, this year we have introduced 2 new events. One is BitBank, another one is Marketers, which are mainly focused on cryptocurrency. So this year our event has witnessed participation from more than 300 colleges across the country. Under the dynamic guidance and leadership of Professor R.V. Rajkumar, Director, IIT Bhubaneswar, we are able to put up this year's E-SUMMIT event in a hybrid mode. I'm sure with the illustrious address of our esteemed chief guest and the events which are pipeline for the coming 3 days extravaganza, you know, they say it requires motivation to start a work. But I hope this motivation transforms into a habit of the budding entrepreneurs to get going with their efforts. So with this thought, I once again welcome you all to our summit. Thank you, Namaskar, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am, for your cheerful speech. Now, I request Professor Parlapalli Venkata Satyam, Dean of Student Affairs, to address the gathering.
So, good evening, my friends. I'm very happy to be here. And before we start, I take my respects to Professor Rajakumar, who had been always with us, encouraging with his vision and taking all of us to reach very high potential to be part of the global teams, global education institutes. And with our, I'm very happy to see our chief guest here, Namaskar sir, Shri Sandip Das, and our friends here, Rajkumar Guduru, and my friend, my even colleague near my home, but Gaurav and Madhushmita and Abhinav and all of you here. It's a great pleasure to be here and also to be part of this. For me, it's actually a kind of first meeting, E-SUMMIT meeting here, because I just joined the IIT system. And being a physicist, we always think of new results, not think too much about how to use them. Of course, that's not the day. That's not the way of life now, right? But we know there's a lot of stories about very enchanting and inspiring people, starting from Thomas Edison, how things happened. But I would like to tell very simple things, because I believe in simple things, but things can go great. Our Honorable Prime Minister has actually told us, and even our director has mentioned several times, that we are looking at several trillion-dollar economy, right? It's like having a big box which can contain $1 trillion. And we can grow that by having one big company or a couple of big companies putting that money in, or like several ants, hard-working ants, intelligent ants, putting each piece of it and making it $1 trillion economy. We at this stage, you people are intelligent, hardworking, dedicated, nation-growing, loving people who would like to put your bit of it in this box of pure $1 trillion economy. Ideas are there, many, you have a lot of ideas, I'm pretty sure. But you know, when I was talking to my son who is 10th class, I was asking him, what do you want to do? You want engineering, medicine, this, that? I said, I want to build a company. I was really shocked. I never thought about these things when I grew up. What I would like to say is the generation has changed. $1 trillion economy is in before us. We want to be one of them to the leaders of the world. That is the goal for us. And this can be achieved only by you. You are at this age, adding up, you can be one day, one of you can be a $1 trillion holder. I don't think our P. Sundararajan or Pichai Sundararajan was one among you, right? So I think there are several ways of it. You should have, as Madhushmita clearly mentioned, you have to dream and you have to work for the dream. Dreams doesn't realize without working. Success comes without any hard work only in dictionary. You work hard, you will get success. That's what I believe. Regarding the other things, I think our Indian system, we have to be proud of it. And you know, 5,000 years back, we had a trade across the continents. This is nothing but commerce, right? That's what we are trying to do now also. So we just have to bring back our charisma, characters, which we had in the past, which we have now also, and then take them all. And also we should believe that there's several people in India who have already developed some technologies. Actually, I had been talking to Atomic Energy Chairman, as well as some of the top persons in the atomic energy, as well as DRDO, CSIR. There are several technologies available with them, but they're not seen outside. I mean, technology transfer from an academic institutions or research institute is not that well adopted here. I think we should be pitching there. We should send some of you into these institutes, look into this technology, exchange your ideas, take their technology, redefine them, and take along. So where you have already a startup, which government also can support it. So there are several ways of doing, right? But if you think that without knowledge, without the breadth of the subject, you will grow just by investing money and getting it, please don't believe in those things. You have to have a knowledge, you have to have an effort, you should have a dream, and you should work for it. Then only the success is sweet. And I wish all of you get success, and the success is sweeter than what you think of. I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, sir, for encouraging us with your motivational words as always. Now, I cordially invite Professor R.V. Raja Kumar, the Honorable Director of IIT Bhubaneswar, to give the patron's address.
Good evening, everybody. Shri Sanjeev Das, Chief Guest of the event. Professor P.V. Satyam, Dean Student Affairs. Dr. Gaurav Bhattaria, Dr. Rajkumar Godaru, Dr. Madhushmita Das, Sai Abhinav, the Student Coordinator, President Gymkhana, Vice President Gymkhana, esteemed faculty members, staff, members, and the very dear students, including the guests. It gives me immense pleasure to participate in this event, in the inaugural session of E-SUMMIT 2022. First of all, I would like to compliment the students for the cost-effective arrangements you have made in this auditorium. I have seen to a good extent, professionalism is visible and also creativity is visible in the kind of stage arrangement you have made. That's what we would like to see more and more coming from the students. I'm confident that after the 2 years of some kind of the loss of opportunities in showcasing in different forms and expression in different forms from students due to the restrictions we have. Now the world is opening up, and I'm sure the students will jump back utilizing the opportunities and showcase their talents. At IIT Bhubaneswar, before that, I think let me react to what Professor Satyam said. Thanks for his initial remarks. Indeed, if we are put this question with how to realize this dream and what should be done during the Amrit Kal and in the initial goals of reaching $1 trillion economy, etc., I'm sure you would have your own solutions given in whatever is appropriate to your way. And if the students can rise to give an accurate solution, it's not easy because it's the role of an economist, and you need to be taught a good amount of economics. However, even without a background on economics, how to find a solution of your own or some thoughts about how to do it, I'm sure so excellent solutions will come from therein. Certainly, we need to improve productivity in this country and the wealth of the nation. And it reflects, the same thing reflects in GDP and so on. Now, how to create this wealth? And who are the stakeholders? I'm sure there are a large number of stakeholders, including IIT Bhubaneswar, which has the role of preparing our country's youth, the IITians, for tomorrow and shaping them into leaders of tomorrow. So how do we do it, and how we contribute towards that is a solution. So which we need to work out. Well, institution did work out. An institution does certain things in that direction. But then the question of why it is so and what every student should take home in the form of an idea or even work while a student shapes oneself up. What is it a student can do is an important question which comes up, certainly. Needless to mention that we need technology development to happen. We need manufacturing to happen to a greater degree in this country. Well, we have the option of selling outside the country, but utilization within the country also matters. If you use the technology and standard of living is to a certain extent in this country, and then if you double it, what would happen to the economy? So certainly it's going to be doubled. It may not be exactly doubling, but then it will certainly proportionately rise the economy. Well, when the economy rises, then only we will be in a position to to spend it. So therefore, first of all, opportunity for rising is important, and for people to spend on standard of living is important. So merely one cannot go ahead and improve on the standard of living. Therefore, the whole thing is a feedback system. So one helps in the other, and the other one helps in the improvement of the standards, and it goes like this in a circle. So you need an ecosystem for it. And the ecosystem development, and for the effect to be felt, it takes some time. So the whole dynamics is understood, or people exercise on that and take actions in certain directions. Now coming back to the direction which IIT Bhubaneswar took up is as follows. We were a late starter at this institute in giving impetus to entrepreneurship. We have done multiple things about 5 to 6 years back. We did set up an incubation center. We have a startup center, and we have a science and technology, research and entrepreneurship, a park as well. The park has some funding, and the park is working on developing and preparing tomorrow's entrepreneurship in the area of augmented and virtual reality to start with. We have a mindset to expand it to other areas as well. Now, coming to the technology incubation, the institute has come up with an excellent policy. I got the opportunity to pen it by myself in 2016. As per the policy, any student or a faculty member or a team of faculty members and students can declare themselves as an incubatees. They can make use of any laboratory of this institute. They will be entitled to take the components from the laboratory, and they can carry on product development or incubate technologies. This kind of a mechanism was brought into picture in 2016. Our board has approved, but unfortunately there are not too many seekers. So we would like the technology development to happen with entrepreneurial kind of ambitions in every laboratory of this institute. You know, we give the consumable support to the laboratory, and from the laboratory you can take the consumable support. And once you declare yourselves as an incubatee, then this kind of facility is provided. And we didn't put hard limits on the total amount, and initial support was defined. And we didn't put hard limits even on time, etc. Fortunately, there are some students who took the benefit of this, some faculty members who took the benefit of it. So when you graduate from the incubator, so you graduate to the startup center, the institute has a startup center in place. Our research and entrepreneurship park is a Section 8 company. And so this Section 8 company can support a lot of entrepreneurial activities, and not only from the students and faculty of this institute, from outside as well. Even the startup center can be made use of for the outsiders. So this kind of policies were brought into picture, are put in place, and the startup center, etc., have been established at this institute. And we did incorporate the courses which can help the students to understand about certain things. For example, a course like entrepreneurship and small ventures was I was working on it myself with Professor P.K.J. Mahapatra, and we created this course at this institute in 2016. You know what is the objective of this course? It is to train a student on how to set up an industry. The simple question of how to set up an industry, how to go about it, how to prepare a project proposal, then how to manage a small venture, how to do the valuation of a venture. So with this kind of ingredients were incorporated and this course in place, mainly for this purpose. This apart, some workshops like how to start a company. You must have realized that very recently we had that kind of course offered in the form of a one-day workshop, and we shared it with across the the seekers across the country. Later on, I got half a dozen requests about, so from different corners, I got this request, requesting me to place it, make it available from the website for people to browse through. So that kind of requests have come, and we would be holding such, would be very happy to hold such workshops in future as well. A few more lines, I would like to share a few more of my thoughts on the entrepreneurship scenario. You know that the Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji himself has come up with many clarion calls, so including the Make in India clarion call. The objective is to inspire every young mind to start and to take to entrepreneurship. And lots of facilities are there today than yesterday. So but then the objective is to create these entrepreneurs. That's what it is. I personally feel that the best way to create entrepreneurs is first to make the knowledge of how to start a company a common knowledge for all the graduates and postgraduates in our country. To me, that's a single point solution to generate a number of people and to make a number of youngsters springing up to open a company. So we started with the objective of making this a common knowledge of every engineering student. Therefore, such workshops are being conducted, and they will, the institute will continue to conduct. Now, some sectors, certainly certain sectors like the defense sector, was open to private industry over the last couple of decades. 20 years back, there were discussions about how to relax the standards and the policies to make private industry participate in defense production. Private industry from the country to start with defense production. Outside, we do have, it is the private industries who do mostly produce the defense equipment. So now today, the country has now went up one more step, and the country is looking for startups to spring up, creating products within the country and fulfill the Atmanirbhar Bharat dream. So today, now at the moment, the country is looking up even for youngsters to come up in technologies like the defense technologies to take to entrepreneurship. I would like to caution one thing, that the majority of the equipment may be very expensive. You need a large-sized industry, but at the same time, there are industries which are small sized, which can also venture to produce defense equipment. But for IIT students, there lies an opportunity, certainly. So when you are at IIT, you have, as a part of your engineering curriculum, you have a major problem solving in the form of a project work that is embedded into your curriculum. If a fraction of you, with the entrepreneurship in mind, and produce a product in mind, you can make use of the thesis option for this purpose, and there is its institute's responsibility to provide a supervisor, and the institute provides. And one can even venture into high technology. That's what I want to mention. Most of the entrepreneurship proposals we see, the entrepreneurship proposals that are submitted to even state government of Odisha. We are a nodal center for for government of Odisha. We also help government of Odisha even in evaluating the proposals. Somehow, most of the proposals are somewhat generic in nature. Not many of them are high-tech in nature. Therefore, I would like to share with you here that you have a grand scope even to take to technology development and take to entrepreneurship in high-tech areas, being IIT students. So that is what you can also venture into. Well, I would say that there are no restrictions, and then whatever you want to do may be tried, certainly. But a wishful thinking on top of it is that high-tech area, which is not very significantly attempted at, is also available to you. So that practice of transferring the technology from outside the country, and only a major industry venturing to do that, and establishing an enterprise need not be the only path. So Professor Satyam is here. I've been wanting the research scholars working in metallurgical and materials engineering school to work on problems with the interest of developing new materials and strategic materials. Their own PhD, 5 years or 4 years of very concentrated work, where you don't count 8 hours of working, etc., can be utilized in developing new materials and strategic materials. And if the research scholar or 1 or 2 scholars together can start an enterprise in that area, I think there is a grand scope, certainly. Okay. So similarly, such scope exists in other areas, and you know about the electric vehicle technology. Then we have nano, micro, and nano science and technology. And with Government of India trying to spend 76,000 crores in establishing a fab facility, so you have opportunities. One can do chip designs, integrated semiconductor integrated IC designs. As a designer myself who designed systems in the past, I would like to believe that so outstanding designs can be made by students, and they can create intellectual property and sell their intellectual properties to bigger companies, or take their own intellectual property by themselves. Embedded systems, Internet of Things. So the list would continue. And even in civil engineering, today the practices that are followed in civil engineering are not up to standards. I'm sorry to say that. But if some civil engineers would like to come up with establishing a contracting agency which is specialized in quality works. I'm sure the word quality can sell, and there is a grand scope there too, and similarly in other disciplines as well. Therefore, I look forward, as the director of this institute, I look forward for the students to participate in big numbers and tell us if you want something which is missing, it will be done. If possible, certainly it will be done at this institute. Okay. So with this message, I would like to compliment the team once again, Gymkhana team. So Sai, Sandip and his other friends who have worked for this, and wish you a grand time for the coming 2 to 3 days and very fruitful time at E-SUMMIT 2022. I would also like to express my gratitude to the chief guest for agreeing to spend his evening with us and enlightening all of us with his thoughts. Okay? So thank you very much and all the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for highlighting the spirit of IIT Bhubaneswar and E-SUMMIT in connecting all the budding entrepreneurs with the professionals of this field. Now, I request Dr. Rajakumar Guduru, the Vice Chairperson of E-SUMMIT, to introduce the chief guest of the evening.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce today's chief guest, Shri Sandip Ranjan Das. Shri Sandip Ranjan Das is a successful and highly regarded international CEO, business and strategic thought leader. He is a graduate in mechanical engineering from the National Institute of Technology, Rourkela in 1978. He received an MBA from Faculty of Management Studies, University of Delhi. He is also the alumnus of the Advanced Management Program from Harvard Business School. Shri Sandip Ranjan Das started his career in 1978 as a management trainee in the DCM Shriram Group, followed by a stint with Toyota Motor Corporation in the Middle East, Dubai. At age 35, he became India's first private licensed telco CEO with Hutchison Max Telecom in 1994. He then went on in 2006 to head Malaysia's Maxis Group as Group CEO and Board Director, overseeing operations across Maxis Malaysia, Aircel India, Sri Lanka Telecom, and Axis Indonesia, based out of Kuala Lumpur. In 2013, he joined Reliance Jio as MD and CEO. In 2015, he left to do an advanced management program at Harvard Business School. He won the award for Best Malaysian CEO in 2012. He raised the largest telco IPO of USD 3.9 billion for Maxis. He was listed among the 100 most powerful people in telecom globally by Global Telecom magazine for 4 years between 2009 and 13. He was a recipient of Lifetime Achievement Award for his contribution to Indian telecom in 2016 by Voice and Data magazine. He was also awarded with the Distinguished Alumni Award by NIT Rourkela. He is currently on the board of directors and an advisor to Sterlite Technologies Limited, independent board director of Greenlam Industries, Telecom Advisor to a leading reputation management company, Astrum. He is a mentor advisor to startup companies and is also the immediate past president of the FMS Forum and Intellectual Alumni Association of the Faculty Management Studies, University of Delhi. Sir, we are delighted to have you among us. Now, may I request you to deliver your talk to the August gathering here. Thank you.
Good evening. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Okay. Um, I have a bit of a difficulty because as technology failed me last evening, my iPad refused to accept my microphone, so I'm talking to you from my phone, which is not ideal. But let me start by saying good evening to all of you, and thank you, Professor Koduru, for your very flattering description. That's all in the past. So, Professor Rajakumar, Director of IIT Bhubaneswar, Dr. Madhusmita Das, Dr. Bhartaya, Professor Venkata Satyam, Professor Goduru, and many other distinguished people on the dais, and professors and faculty members, and most importantly, the ladies and gentlemen students of IIT Bhubaneswar. I cannot express the sense of honor I feel to be invited to the E-Summit on embracing innovation and reshaping the future. And I apologize for not being there personally because I have a very early morning factory visit from here. It's a couple of hours of drive, so I couldn't be there. I actually don't need any temptation to be in Bhubaneswar because I belong to Cuttack. And at every possible excuse, I want to land up there. So hopefully one of these days, after, if you sort of liked what I said today, you might call me again. So I might come again. So I'm very humbled because I've been asked to speak on subject which is very, very onerous, innovation. And we can talk about forecasting the future and predicting the future, but shaping the future is a very onerous task. So it was delightful to hear Professor Venkata Satyam and, of course, the director, Professor Rajakumar, talk so elaborately about the work that is being done at IIT Bhubaneswar. And I shall talk about it a little later. But I want to remind all of you that, you know, the mind can only open up with the way that we think. I'm reminded of the fact that in 1899, a gentleman called Charles Dewey, who was an senior official in the US Patent Office, he said, everything that can be invented has been invented. And he said this in 1899. He must be turning in his grave today. Because if you look at what a futurologist, Alan Keyes, said, he said, the future was there for us to see, but only a few of us saw it. The fact is that human beings would not have been the dominant species in the world if they had not been constantly more creative and innovative than the rest of the living species. Think about it. Although there is enough evidence of creativity in the animal world, Dr. Venkata Satyam talked about the ants, and the ants are smart creatures, but ant colonies are smarter. Spiders, spin their webs, and beavers are the engineers. They create dams, and bees collect nectar and turn them into honey. I mean, but the sheer scale and the manner in which, the pace at which human beings have harnessed intelligence and innovative qualities has been astonishing. Actually, if I speak dispassionately, creativity and innovation has been around our world for centuries. And every century has its innovation. It's only the pace of innovation has grown faster and faster. I mean, look at ancient human species, discovering fire, discovering clothing, the most important thing, the discovery of the invention of the wheel. And while talking about the wheel, somebody told me a joke yesterday saying, the guy who produced the wheel was a great guy, but the person who developed all the other three wheels was probably a bit smarter because he got the whole world moving. So my professor at Harvard Business School, Professor Michael Porter, said, a nation's prosperity does not grow by only its natural endowments of low-cost labor, a low-cost labor pool, or interest rates, as classical economists will say. It grows out of the capacity of a nation and its people to create and innovate. There was a time in history where a lot of discoverers and inventions came from the UK, from England, from France, from Germany. But look at the countries today. Look at Japan, look at Korea, look at Israel. And somewhere down the line, people sat back on their old inventions and stopped making innovation their habit. Why is it that we are calling this generation the age of innovation and creativity? It's simple. It's because of several reasons, but the most important reason is the advancement of technology. You know, look at wire-free, look at cloud storage, look at computing, look at the internet, look at World Wide Web, look at genetic evolution, look at mutation, look at miniaturization, look at sensational artificial intelligence, look at machine learning, look at edge computing, and look at now what we are talking about in terms of metaverse. All have come together and hastened invention. There is more happening every hour in the world than has happened in decades or even centuries. We must also remember, and this is where I think Professor Rajakumar spoke about it in passing. And we must remember that innovation and creativity are no longer the exclusive preserve of the privileged, the educated, or the research community. Today, innovation and creativity has become democratized. They're agnostic to wealth, gender, community, race, land. On top of all this, in the digital world, even time has become asymmetric. You know, you no longer wait for things to happen. A film actor like Amir Khan doesn't wait chewing his nails on Friday night in a cinema hall to see whether his movie will be a hit. He already has predictive data available to see 3 or 4 days before he can simulate the situation and see what's happening through data analytics. I was once talking to an eminent Stanford economist who said that Asia and Africa are likely to be more creative in infrastructure, as the infrastructure in these parts of the world is way behind everybody else. Why? What does that tell you? That tells you that adversity, more often than not, is the spark for creativity. You know, a young 14-year-old African boy from the Maasai tribe who used to incidentally go to a local jungle school used to watch helplessly every night as the lions from the jungle would come in and hunt their cattle. So he decided to do one thing. He decided to put electric bulbs on the fence of the village, 14-year-old boy. And he realized that when lions saw the shadows of human beings, they never came close to the village. But a couple of days later, the lions started attacking again because they realized and they found out that, look, these are just lights because they're also smart. But he realized that if human beings flashed torches at the lions, they ran away again. So what does he do now? He went and created moving lights like you have in Deepavali. He created moving lights on the barricade. So the lions were fooled into believing that human beings were flashing torches. Now this 14-year-old boy talks to the world on TED Talks. Maasai tribe. They don't know where they're going to get the next bit of food from. Hunted by animals, living in a jungle. But look at his innovation. I understand somewhere in Odisha, a little girl was to go to school, and while she used to, cycle up, she used to come across a lot of bumps on the road because Professor Rajakumar spoke about civil engineering, and obviously somebody was not doing the job. And there were large potholes, which we see very often on our roads. And this particular road had extremely large potholes, so she had to get down from a cycle, walk a bit. But she went back and spoke to her school physics teacher. And God bless teachers like Professor Venkata Satyam, who are from physics faculty. And he taught her about a dynamo. And she actually learned how to fix it on her cycle. And every time there is to be bump, there is to be a generation of movement and electricity. And I'm saying this happened right through adversity. If you look at our own vocabulary in India, we have a word which we look very derogatorily, and that word is called jugaad. Jugaad is always seen in a bad context in India because everybody who fixes something is supposed to have jugaad. But actually, jugaad is the most fascinating word and the most fascinating trait in India. It is the ability to find solutions through what you can do. To my mind, it is the genius of the Indian mind, and it is found every day in our lives, the way that people work around us in small cities, in urban areas, semi-urban areas, in villages. It's the ability to look at ways that you can change things. When I was young, of course, that was many, many decades ago. Many of you were not, of course, born at that time. The world was the world. It was going through a cultural change. We had hippies. We had the world of rock and roll. The Beatles were changing the music forever. And United States was fighting communism across the world and was waging a Pyrrhic battle with the Vietnamese. The Vietnamese were fighting against the world's most superior military force, armed with firepower that they could never afford for generations. But they fought very valiantly because they fought cleverly. They used to, in the death of the night, in a cloak and dagger function, come out and like guerrillas come and attack American cantonments and camps and go back. They used to live underground, and I've actually gone and visited those underground cities in Vietnam. And there are small tunnels which go several floors under the earth, no light, nothing, claustrophobic. Big Americans couldn't pass through those tunnels, but Vietnamese could navigate through them. They used to live there. So the Americans found that they had bridges across the river, and they used to cross over those bridges at night. During the day, they couldn't be seen because they were all underground. So what does the American Air Force do? They go and strafe the Mekong River and destroy all those bridges so that there is no movement at night. So guerrilla attacks stop. 3 months later, guerrillas start attacking all over again. But the Americans can't see any bridges. It's because the clever Vietnamese have now developed submersible bridges. The bridges go under the water during the day. At night, with ropes, they are tugged up again, and fleets of guerrillas come across. So every time somebody is creating an obstacle, in the creative mind, somebody is finding an innovative solution. I am told that we all are aware of the race to the space between the United States and Russia, and I'm told of an interesting story which says that the Americans were trying very hard to find an anti-gravity pen so that the ink would move up rather than move down. And they were spending quite some time in NASA trying to develop that pen. But what did the Russians do? They gave their astronauts pencils. Not everything in this world is about creating one massive invention. It's a lot of common sense and trying to find solutions. There was a young engineering student many years ago who used to study in BITS Pilani. And he took a midterm transfer and joined Caltech in the USA. His name is Samir Bhatia. He's a friend of mine. He created something called Hotmail, which he sold, and he told me later that he sold it for far little. He sold it for $500 million when you could have earned billions. So I asked him, I said, Samir, why did you join Caltech and what was your experience? And he said, when I joined Caltech, in my first examination, which was on a subject of humanities, I studied everything thoroughly because he was a good student, and I answered all the questions pit-pat, and I was waiting for my results, and I was hoping for a very high grade, and to my horror, I got a C. So he was very agitated. He went and approached his professor and he said, can you please tell me, was there something wrong with my answer? And the American professor said, no, your answers were perfect. They were straight out of the textbook. There's nothing wrong. He said, then why didn't you give me an A+, at least an A? So the professor said, no. If it was a memory test, I would have given you an A++. But in the answers, I didn't see any opinion of yours. Now, that is where education in institutions need to worry about. If we are talking about innovation, I was very glad to hear what Professor Rajakumar was saying. IIT Bhubaneswar may be in its infancy compared to other institutions, including the Indian Institute of Science, which has been here for decades and ages. But it doesn't mean that you will not become more innovative culturally as an institution. And I'm amazed to see the kind of work that is being put in. So it's important to understand that in order to inculcate a behavior and in order to make innovation an airborne disease, it is very important to see that it spreads like a virus across the people. It should be culturally in the DNA of people. But that will happen when the way the institution rewards or recognizes or embraces innovative ideas from students. Are you creating an environment for students to be creative? Or I'm not saying that students don't, we are studying engineering and mathematics, which is an exact science. It doesn't allow too much scope for variation. But what is it that we are doing? It's very interesting to see you've started enterprise as a subject. So the job of a teacher, to my mind, is not to teach, but to ask the right questions. When we ask the right questions, the students will automatically start thinking and broadening. And that goes back to the Sabir Bhatia example of Caltech. What were you thinking? And how will we find a mechanism to reward it and to recognize it and to encourage it? One of the most fascinating things that I have been reading over the last couple of years is the concept of design thinking. It is a subject that should also be made compulsory in all engineering institutions, to my mind. And maybe it is taught in IIT Bhubaneswar, I don't know, I'm not familiar with the curriculum. But why? Design thinking was always there. If you look at innovative engineers, they always thought about design thinking. But today, it is being articulated in a much wonderful way. Let me give you an example. If you have a door panel, then you will push the door. If you have a door knob, you will turn the knob. If you have a handle, you will pull the door. None of these are giving you instructions on how to open the door. Our ability to become intuitive in engineering for people to make things simple. Look at Steve Jobs. He decided to provide a phone where if you did this, the picture would become smaller. If you did this, you would change the picture. Humanizing technology. Look at the amount of technology that went at the back, but in the interface with the user, it became simple human action, which is why we must always balance technology and humanity and the human actions. Let me give you another example of design thinking. If manufacturers spend a lot of time trying to manufacture the world's perfect quarter-inch drill bit, everybody is trying to make the proper mechanism, the proper material. But remember, the customer is not looking for a drill bit. He is wanting to make a quarter-inch hole. Design thinking is about what is the consumer wanting to do? And that spreads across everything that we do. So very often we confuse innovation with invention and spend hours and hours thinking of ideas. For example, we've always been taught that between 2 points, the shortest distance is a straight line. You draw a straight line from Delhi to New York, and you'll spend more time traveling on that versus going over the North Pole, which is not a straight line. But that's how you challenge the status quo. And when companies become very, very large, there is one quality that they all lose, which is the quality of common sense. And therefore, big companies try to invent with big R&D budgets and all those kind of things. And suddenly a small entrepreneur comes along because he's always trying to question why things are always done in a certain way. Is there a way that you can reduce the problem, or you can lessen the problem, or completely remove the problem? When I used to work with Toyota Motor Corporation, Soichihiro Toyoda, when he was designing the Lexus car, he said, try and build an automobile as if you're building an automobile all over again. In mechanical engineering, we spend hours trying to learn in a chapter called dampening, because when vibration happens, you put dampeners. Soichihiro Toyoda said, why don't you remove vibration from the source? You don't have to think of designing a dampener. Why does the axle coming out of the engine go straight into the rear drive and has got another gearbox to go through, and it loses power through the propeller shaft? Redesign it. So people have to question the normal. And it is not always about money. In fact, it's the other way around. The lesser the money you have, the more creative you become. It's only when you have to scale startups and things like that that you need financing. And like Professor Rajakumar said, great things are happening in our country. I wish I was 15 years younger. First of all, technology has moved so much faster. But as a nation, we are in throes of many stirring slogans. Make in India, Swachh Bharat. Incidentally, my son was the first 1 or 2 boys who actually worked with Niti Aayog on creating this platform of Make in India. He, of course, now works for Amazon. And women empowerment, skilling of India. There are ministries, state governments, private enterprises who have all sniffed the opportunity to play a part in transforming our nation, to build here. There are institutions like us, like our IIT Bhubaneswar, like private enterprises. They're all working to make things happen. So the stars are all aligning for you young students to do the right thing. You never had a better time to innovate. So everybody is strengthening policies, removing bureaucratic bottlenecks, providing mentorship, and most importantly, putting their money where their mouth is. Every day when I sit in my study, I meet young graduates from IITs and NITs, grown-up people, ambitious people, even college dropouts, landing up and presenting their business ideas. I learn so much every day. One day, 4 young boys from one of the IITs came to meet me, and I'm sure they hadn't washed their clothes for days. They were scrawny. They had dark circles under their sunken eyes because of sleep deprivation. But somehow their eyes were sparkling because it betrayed their passion. They were from very, very humble families. One of the boys told me in broken English that his parents made a living in the village making cow dung cakes. Can you imagine? And they were all planning to drop out of their last semester in engineering because they were obsessed with an idea of making easy foreign exchange products for international travelers to make money changing hassle-free. And you know what's the best part? None of them had ever gone abroad, and 2 of them had never flown a plane. But I was dumbstruck, but they were so smitten with their passion, they didn't want somebody to get ahead of that, and they were even willing to not complete the education. So young ladies and gentlemen, startups are no longer just fashionable, they're an epidemic with no cure. These youngsters dream about every day to become famous dropouts like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs because they're in the business of ideas and are running against time before somebody else does it. But I pleaded with them. I said, listen, young boys, this is India. It is not always not very grateful. Please complete your graduation. Sometimes life is not fair and you should always fall back on plan B. It's good to idolize Bill Gates, but complete your engineering. You have just 1 semester left. Get done with it. Education is important. Many people think soon the digital world of big ideas, data analytics, and all will start eating into their jobs. So we are skilling ourselves for the next decade. It's important to think about the change that is also required in our traditional skills. Worrying about the new skills that may have to be learned to coexist with these changing technologies. Before all of us panic about jobs going away, you must consider that there are startups and there is technology development, which will actually take away the menial tasks from us, the repetitive task, and free us human beings to do what we do best, which is to be more human and to be more creative. At all my talks, I speak about an article which was written many years ago by a great professor called Professor Theodore Levitt. And the article was called Marketing Myopia. He belabored the point about how even the best companies in the world suffered from business short-sightedness. The first question that we have to always ask ourselves is, what problem is our product or service trying to solve? After that, we need to ask the second question to say, what business are we in? I was once mentoring another IIT bunch of students who wanted to create a Uber equivalent of commercial vehicles. They said, you know, whenever you want to transport some little stuff, etc., you call for a commercial vehicle instead of an Uber taxi. And I asked them, I said, it means it's cheaper to transport apples from an orchard into a Simla train, then go by train to Delhi, sit in a warehouse, and then be sold in the market 1 month late from the time they were plucked. Anand Mahindra produced the lowest cost automobile, manufacturing line, and now he's considering creating a cheap aircraft. He created the Scorpio. Now he's trying to do an aircraft, and he's saying, I want apples to be shipped across from Simla to Delhi within 2 hours of having been plucked from an orchard, so that people will have fresh apples 2 days old on their table. The government is considering waterways for commerce. So I turned around and told these IIT boys, I said, listen, you are not in the business of light commercial vehicles. You're in the business of cheapest commercial transportation, whether it is light commercial vehicles, whether it's aircraft, whether it is ships, whether it's boats. So understand what business you're in. You're not in the business of light commercial vehicles, but you're in the business of solving the best. Otherwise, you'll become obsolete very soon because some other technology will take over. Let's take a sneak peek into the future of transportation. Professor Rajakumar spoke about electric vehicles. Look at what, a couple of years back, we were thinking it was theoretical. This morning, I spoke in my society, and now we have put electric charging stations in our parking lots because we are soon expecting electric vehicles to come up. The focus of transportation, for example, will also change. People will no longer buy vehicles, they will buy trips. It won't matter what car you have as a status symbol. Services like carpooling, urban transportation will all change. In fact, somebody was telling me that it is going to be there. Dr. Rajakumar rightly spoke about civil engineering, and that people are constructing roads now where if electric vehicles run on them, they will get automatically charged. How wonderful is that? It's just amazing how people are thinking. City centers will no longer be the important places. Regions will become more attractive. So you will change the social construct of things. So in India, as a developing nation, we have a lot of problems. If you look around you, you will see that there are problems everywhere and every day. They're all waiting for solutions. Every problem is a massive startup operation. Massive. You solve the problem, you create a market, and then you earn the money. My dear friend, Ariana Huffington, who sort of started Huffington Post in New York, she's written a beautiful book called Thrive. And she says it's amazing how people all their lives, particularly youngsters, chase power and money. And yet, when people land up in their grave, on their epitaph, nobody writes how much money they have in the bank, but they say, what did they change or transform in the world? Money, success, power are all byproducts. It's very important to remain relentless in your pursuit of perfection. So since Madhusmita just gave me 30 minutes, I'm going to be careful that I don't exceed it. Otherwise, she could be quite harsh with me. Let me say, what are the takeaways? Every problem is a startup opportunity. Adversity sparks innovation. Make technology your slave, not your master. Bill Gates said, knowledge is the new adjective. The knowledge worker, knowledge class, knowledge this, knowledge that. As students and future entrepreneurs, as Professor Rajakumar is earnestly goading you all to go and take charge of that $1 trillion economy and do things, remember, be curious. Be curious to the point of being annoying. Be passionate. Always have a higher purpose. And remember, insights are more important than just information. I'll give you one small story. You know, these kirana shops which sell stuff, they're usually one-man shops, and they have a little chotu in their shop who goes and collects money from everybody. So one day, this was in Geo, one of my kids said, you know, sir, I have a very interesting information. My kirana shop guy who used to collect cash from me every day has now told me, I will not collect cash. You give it to me at the end of the month. So he's actually looking for credit for a month. I thought about it for a while, and I called him back again and I said, you know, you have an information where he said, don't give me money today, but give me after a month. This guy needs cash every day. So every day he has cash, he sits and counts his cash. But because it is cumbersome to sit and count his cash, he wants it at the end of the month. So your insight is wrong. He wants the money every day, but he can't manage his money every day. So what did we do as Reliance Jio? We created a point of sale machine. And the point of sale machine, he keys in his data and he gets his daily cash register. And when he runs out of his Frito-Lays or his Maggi noodles, automatically he presses a button and his inventory goes out to the company, whether it's Nestle or Procter & Gamble. And then they make a supply to him, because supply chain has got developed over the last couple of years more. And his payment is made through our payment. Everything happens in a fraction. Look how easy it has become for him, because technology has helped him. He's getting his daily cash. His inventory is fine. His reports are happening. It's fabulous. Remember that don't sell products and services. Don't say this is my product, buy it. Offer an experience or solve a problem. What did Maya Angelou say? It doesn't matter how a person speaks or how well he speaks. The question is, after his speech is over, think about how he made you feel. When people experience your product, ask them how you made them feel. You know, they say it is great for people to love your product, but it is quite another thing when people tattoo your brand name on your body. Do you know how many people tattoo their name Harley Davidson on their bodies? That's the power of a brand. That's just so happy about their brand. Always balance technology with human values. It's very, very important. You know, you cannot afford, at the end of it, remember, irrespective of whatever you say about the Apple's phone, it is very humanized. Incorporate design thinking in your life and always challenge the status quo. Don't be disrespectful to older people, but be irreverent to their ideas if they are old and archaic. Never be disrespectful, but don't have to accept what anybody says because it's been happening traditionally. Don't wait for someone to bring your flowers. Plant your own garden and decorate your soul. Do things that terrify you, because fear is your opportunity to grow. You know, people, engineers hate going into accounting and this and that. Master it. Some of the finest bankers in the world are engineers. And remember, standing still is a mistake. If you don't have movement, check your pulse. You may be dead. Because in the future, there'll be two kinds of companies, those that are digital and those that are dead. Don't chase success, chase excellence. And always remember, I'm saying this as a business guy, what comes from the heart goes to the heart. And finally, I want to say that, you know, the pandemic has caused a lot of problems for us. It has been a great opportunity. Like Winston Churchill said, never waste a crisis. So that crisis has helped us fast forward technology. People have become familiar with online, supply chains have improved, people have become digital, and it's a great opportunity for startups. There is a saying that when there is a storm in the sea and the fishermen cannot take their boats out into the sea, they spend their time repairing their fishing nets. So repair your fishing nets when there's a crisis, because there is a storm coming. At the end, let me say that no organizational regeneration or national renaissance can take place without individual acts of courage. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is one of the most magnificent speeches we have ever listened to. We are privileged to have an opportunity to listen to you this evening. On behalf of all gathered here, I thank you, sir, for sharing your life experiences and encouraging us to grow in not only a smarter but also a faster way. I'm sure many of our participants have many questions to ask you. So now I invite Yadidya to take over the questionnaire session.
Thank you, Prashanti, for giving me this opportunity. Good evening to all the dignitaries here and all the participants. Good evening, sir. We're really honored to interact with you. It's my pleasure to listen to your address. We have learned a lot of new things which are helpful to our personal growth. So over the past few days, we have collected a few questions from the participants, and I request you to kindly address them. To begin with, the startup culture in India has been growing exponentially over the past few years. Where do you see this going?
I was always dreading your question answer session because you're such bright people. I knew you would put me on a spot. But let me say that why do you startups are just only beginning if you really ask me. And what is wonderful is that the middle class, which is the large Indian middle class, which used to struggle for jobs and stuff like that, they have suddenly realized that they can produce things and match and compete with some of the biggest people. Unless problems go away, startups will not go away. So startups, after the World War II got over, Churchill called Britain a nation of shopkeepers. I am saying today that India is going to become a nation of startups. And it's amazing how it has got democratized along the way. I have no hesitation that startups will continue to happen because that's the only way we can catch up with the rest of the world. The only way we can democratize innovation, the only way we can harness creativity and talent in this country. Look at the amount of engineers and doctors we are producing every year. You can't always find them jobs, and they will all be better off doing startups. So I think that we have an absolutely bright future on startups. But yes, I do feel that some amount of optimization will happen as we go along, because sometimes I'm afraid that sometimes startups have been seen as the trendy thing to do. But don't do a startup because it's a trend. Do startups because you're passionate about changing something.
Absolutely, sir. Absolutely, sir. So moving on, we have a question related to Jio. Jio had entered the market giving high-speed internet for free, and many rival companies had to reduce their prices, compromising the profit. What if a new company starts with the same strategy? How can a debt-ridden industry survive in that way?
See, one of the things you have to understand is that Reliance did not enter the market only to reduce prices. Mukesh Ambani, when I sort of met him and he spoke to me, and I asked him, what business do you think you are in? And he said to me that, he didn't say that he was in mobile business. He said, I'm in the business to get data and internet to 500 million people in India at least. So he produced a product which was highly superior at an affordable price because he wanted to make people internet friendly and be sort of. Then he realized that the people who really use internet are young people who cannot afford smartphones. And there are also people who live in villages and semi-urban areas. So he deployed a lot of attention in creating smartphones which were affordable. Because he says, what's the point of giving free data and good network if they can't have a machine, a terminal device to receive it? So when youngsters start, they have to understand that when you create value, you will always find a market. And let me tell you another thing about these startups which are funded by private equity firms, etc. Private equity firms also bet on a horse. They don't worry about the losses. In fact, if you make profits very early in your startup and start buying a Porsche car and then getting a house and sort of being featured in all kinds of things, actually private equity firms run away from giving you money because they said, this guy has no passion. So I think if your fundamentals are strong and you're constantly looking at reducing cost to produce and deliver, if you're forced to manage within your resources, you're working with very interesting supply chains, all barriers are dropping today. e-cash mechanism has got activated. I think, and with work from home, if there is an opportunity to have very asset-light companies, I think there is an opportunity temporarily sometimes to enter the market. You'll have to lower your price. But remember one thing, low price is not a sustainable competitive advantage. Good quality is, like Professor Rajakumar said, quality is very important. You have to make sure that whatever your product is better than what everybody is offering. Otherwise, why should somebody buy you? Reliance offered a better product at a more affordable price, period.
So, sir, any key lessons that you have learned throughout your career that you think are important, everyone must know?
I sound like Sadhguru today now. But I think, they say when you are in trouble, you should keep your friends very close to you, but you should keep your enemies closer. Today, at the time of my life, I actually I'm happy with the successes I've had, but I want to keep the failures closer. So whatever I say to you are results of the failures that I've had in life. Because every time I've been successful, I would say, and I'm not trying to be, humble here, but every time I've had a success, it's because I've been surrounded by wonderful people. But every time I've failed, it's always something that I didn't do rightly. So my message is that don't watch a problem, go out and solve it. It doesn't matter if you are late or smaller, do it better. I mean, how many of you remember that social site called Orkut versus a Facebook today? Orkut has disappeared. They were much ahead of Facebook, but look where they have reached. So today you have to understand the world is your market and think of humanity. Give back to society, give back. Once you're successful, give back to IIT Bhubaneswar. Look at the kind of corpus IIT Mumbai, IIT Madras and all have created because of their successful alumni, because they want the next generation to come up. Always stay physically and mentally healthy. It's very important. Be spiritual. I don't care if you're religious, but it's important that you stay spiritual. And what you do today will make the future a better place. Last thing I'd like to say is never be arrogant after a win or never get despondent after a loss. Because like in a game of chess, remember after the game, all the pieces go back into the same box. Good communication is very, very important. You must realize that you can, there is a saying that when Aeschylus spoke, everybody said how well he speaks. But when Demosthenes spoke, they said, let's march against Greece. So that's the difference in communication. Embrace change. Be curious. Learn things that make you fear. No shortcuts. Remember, everybody gets very enamored with, in 1 year he became a unicorn. His good luck or her good luck. Work harder and smarter. Get better than yourself every week. And most importantly, do not ever abandon values and ethics. Values are not values if they are not hard to do. I can go on. There are so many lessons.
Thank you, sir. It has been a great privilege to listening to you. So this brings us to the end of the questionnaire session. Now I request Prashanti to take over.
Thank you.
So anyone in the participants want to ask questions to the sir?
Good evening, everyone. My name I am Krishna Khan. I am Krishna Kant, and sir, I have a small question. And I wanted to listen from you. I wanted to listen answer from you. Like, market need is changing every moment. So what are the most critical changes we need to take into to face the future market effectively? How to understand the market better?
See, there is no shortcut to that. you have to spend a disproportionate amount of your time with the customer. A lot of companies don't spend time with their customers. You have to spend time with the problem and the customer. I gave you this example of this fellow's daily cash. What is more important is not information. Insights are very important. Are you picking up insights? Why is the person doing this? You have to be very, very agile. You have to be unemotional about the past. You can't say, I have always been doing things like this, so I will do it like this. And a lot of big companies and big countries have come to a standstill because they're hanging on to their old past. Look at our country. We are moving only when we are shedding some of the past. Yes, we have to draw inspiration from what we have done. We are a great nation. We have done great things. We lost all of those things somewhere. Also, watch other industries. Let me give you an example. You know, once in the middle of the night, my daughter who was studying, please, are you standing up? Why don't you sit down? Yeah. Okay. So, you know, my daughter in the middle of the night, she was studying for her examination and she said to me, Dad, can you put the computer on? And she was using an iMac and it was very, very dark. So I took, in the darkness, I was feeling lazy. I took the plug and I tried to plug it into the Apple. And by magic, through a magnetic force, it went and got inside the machine. And I suddenly at 2:30 in the night in the darkness, I had a moment, my light bulb went up in my head. Because I suddenly realized that they had created a magnetic plug, and how come Dell, IBM, HP, none of them had thought about it, but Apple had thought about it. So one of my friends who's now a very senior, was the chief marketing officer of Apple, Mike Fenger, I asked him, I said, Mike, where did you get this from? He said, you know, Sandeep, half the things that Apple has done, which everybody thinks we have found out, are things that we have learned from other businesses. We realized that in Japan, a lot of Japanese women used to get electrocuted with the rice cooker. So the Japanese rice cooker companies developed magnetic plugs so that their fingers don't go inside the socket. Apple learned it and they did it. So you have to see what other industries are also doing, and they don't necessarily have to be in your business. You will learn from a hotel, you'll actually learn from a panwala on the street if you observe him closely. So the question is, what are you watching? So changing market is, remember, this is the world of the never satisfied customer. And you have to remain agile. You cannot stand still.
Thank you, sir. We can take the next question.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
This is not a question, sir. This is Satyam. Yeah, I think I'm Satyam. I think so I have only one admiration for you. I would like to request all our present here to stand up and clap for your talk.
I'm sorry, you can't see me.
Thank you very much for your
Mali India finding bubble in India is in a funding bubble.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Professor, thank you so much for embarrassing me.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for patiently answering all our questions, and I'm sure everyone has learned most of it. So now it's time to felicitate our eminent guest of honor. I cordially invite Professor R.V. Rajakumar, the Honorable Director of IIT Bhubaneswar, to present the memento as a token of respect.
Thank you, Professor Rajakumar. I think your students will find a way to virtually send it to me.
Yes, they have mastered this art. They have been doing it. Friends, it's a very illuminating and thought-provoking talk on a very important and hard topic like innovation, creativity, and so the entrepreneurial spirit as well. It's a great talk from the Harvard and NIT Rourkela alumnus. Since Professor Satyam's term was over, I would say once again, please give him a big hand. So thank you, Sanjeevji, for a wonderful talk.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been a privilege. I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity. I was complaining to Madhusmita that I did not have the opportunity to meet you, sir. I hope one day I have the opportunity and to also be amongst all of you. But all the best to IIT Bhubaneswar. I think in a couple of years from now, we will be talking about you in very different terms with the way that you have sown the seeds. And I wish you all the best. And I also volunteer to say at any point of time, if you think that I can be of any use to your institution in helping the students, the professors, etc., I will be most honored to do that. Please feel free to. Right now, I'm very happy to spread whatever little I know.
So nice of you. Thank you very much for this offer. And more than everything, we look forward for your physical visit to our campus and then share your thoughts in person here. We look forward for the day.
Thank you very much. Namaskar. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madhu.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir, for honoring our chief guest with a token of appreciation. Now, I request the Chief Coordinator of E-SUMMIT 2022, Shiv Sai Abhinav Chakka, to propose the vote of thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Respected directors, Sir Professor R.V. Rajkumar, Honorable Chief Guest of the Day, Shri Sandip Ranjan Das, Dean Student Affairs, Professor P.V. Satyam, Chairperson of E-SUMMIT 22, Dr. Madhusmita Das, Vice Chairperson of E-SUMMIT 22, Dr. Rajkumar Gururu, Sir, Professor in charge of Entrepreneurship Cell, Gaurav Bhattaria, Sir, President Students Gymkhana, Dr. Srinivas Bhaskar Karanki, and Vice President Students Gymkhana, Swapnil Moore, and all the dignitaries present on the stage. It gives me immense pleasure to convey this vote of thanks on behalf of the whole team of E-SUMMIT. I would like to thank the entire administration of IIT Bhubaneswar for supporting us in organizing this evening. I would like to thank our registrar, Shri Debraj Rath Sir, Dean of Academics, Professor P.V. Sahu, Dean of Faculty and Planning, Professor Saroj Kumar Naik, Professor in charge of CITSC, Animesh Mandal, CSO Lieutenant Commander, Engineering Section, Housekeeping Staff, and the whole team of E-SUMMIT 22 for making this possible. First of all, I would like to thank the entire team for giving me this opportunity for being the Chief Coordinator. For any event to be successful, we need partners, and we have wonderful sponsors who have been constantly supporting us. I would like to thank all the sponsors and all other partners for organizing this event. On behalf of E-SUMMIT 22, would like to thank each and every person for attending this event, and a huge thanks for a loyal audience who kept on encouraging us and they made the summit better. And special thanks to our respected director, sir, for always supporting us and being there with us. Our respected director, sir, is in fact the inspiration for the theme, embracing innovation and reshaping the future. Thank you for supporting us, sir. E-SUMMIT IIT Bhubaneswar has been evolving and reaching new heights every year. Despite the pandemic, we're organizing this event with the same spirit in a hybrid way. And people from all over the country can participate in the summit from the comfort of their homes. The next 2 days are going to be a joyful ride filled with learning and inspiring talks and exciting events. So once again, I invite you all to this 3-day event. Hope you all have a great time and a huge thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhinav. Thank you each and every one of you for being here. And a special thanks to all the dignitaries for supporting us as always. Thank you and have a pleasant evening. And please collect the refreshments outside. Thank you. The event has officially come to a conclusion. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, sir.